watching Boogie Stomp, the movie of Bob Eldori and Bob Seeley. But joining us this week as a presenting sponsor, usually on Thursdays, very happy to have him here on Friday this week because of Tigers baseball, Scott Westerman, Executive Director of the MSU Alumni Association and former disc jockey at 7:30 a.m. Hey, Scott, how are you?
Rico and Jack, I'll tell you, this is great to be back on the AM band again. I used to sign this thing off at sunset.
That's right.
We had a 30-second thing that would go right before the end of the legal day that was a Billy Joel root beer rag, and we had to get the WVIC AM call sign out and say, turn over to the FM right now. We killed that transmitter right at the last possible second.
You were over on Mount Hope at that point, right?
2517 is Mount Hope. It was actually originally an animal hospital, and Rico, it still smelled like one. All those years ago. We thought it was Jim St. John's aftershave, actually.
Well, we've moved into spacious digs here, as you can see.
Yeah, I love it. This is great.
So actually, we've got all the Cumulus stations under one roof here, and it's a little bit different, but still, you have a lot of people who remember you from your radio days. I found the other day Mike Griffith was talking about that. Yep. So, remembered that growing up.
Radio, as you guys all know, it is an addiction that you never fully get over.
Right.
Once you've had the joy of playing the hits, and thank you very much for some easy beats. I really appreciated that today. It's great to hear Friday on my mind. That makes me feel old. When you know what year that came out? That was 1967.
Oh, Jack, you got somebody else who could appreciate your
Rico doesn't like the taste in music, but Friday, you got to play Friday on my mind. So
absolutely, that's perfect. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit tell the listeners how you get from spinning the discs at 7:30 and WVIC on Mount Hope Road to be the executive director of the MSU Alumni Association.
Wow. Well, it was a long and winding road. I mean, I woke up one morning as a program director in Cadillac, Michigan at WATT, realizing I had 2 kids and I was making under $20,000 a year. So it was money motivating, And so I looked down the road and there was this tall tower, very tall tower, and it wasn't a radio tower, it was a cable tower. So I decided to become a cable TV guy, and did that for roughly 25 years. I had one of those .com moments when our company Continental Cablevision was purchased. So I got to do all of my dreams on my bucket list came true. That was 5 years, and then I decided to get back into cable as a turnaround guy. The one thing that was common throughout all of that, though, guys, was that every good thing that happened to me had an MSU connection to it.
Yeah.
And it was every good turn. And so I was constantly involved with the local clubs. You know how it is once you volunteer for those kind of things. You move into a new town, and they say, former president of a smart alumni club, you got the job.
Were you a major in television radio when you were here?
I was, yep. Okay. I was one of the last guys to graduate when we still did all of our classes over in the Union building. They built that beautiful Com Arts building the year I graduated. It opened. So,
how about that?
Yeah, so I didn't get that. I helped pay for it, but I didn't get the benefit.
Well, it's a beautiful building. Thank you very much for your time and effort.
I
appreciate that.
I'll tell you, Colleen and I have a small endowment to support the Impact, 88.9 The Impact.
All right.
Because of all of us guys that learned our trade, you need a place to be bad, There isn't anymore. With everything kind of coming together, there's no place where you can learn how to be good by being bad.
You'll appreciate this. When we went on the air the first time, Tom Crawford and I, in mid-March 2002, he'd always said, we ought to do this for a living. We ought to be on the air. I said, nobody's going to pay us to do this. We'd argue on the phone at night. He said, we ought to do this on the radio.
Yeah,
I said,
still not paying you, right?
No, still not. That hasn't happened yet, right?
Right.
So I said, if you can get a radio show, I'll do it, figuring he'd never do it. So it's 2002. Michigan State is playing in the first round of the NCAA basketball tournament in Washington, D.C. And playing North Carolina State, and they're ahead at the half. And my phone is blowing up. I must have had 12 calls from this clown in the first half. And so I went out in the hallway. I said, Tom, what do you want? It's the middle of the game. He says, we got a radio show. I said, oh, okay, great. When do we start? We start Monday at 7 o'clock. I said, 7 o'clock? They're going to win this game. They're going to play Sunday. I'm not even going to be back. Sure enough, Alan Anderson fouls out. They lose the game. I change my flight, go back, walk into the studio on Monday, have no idea what we're doing. We're over at the Ticket.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
And Tom and I are there, and I said, well, what are you going to do for a producer? We didn't know Doug Warren in those days that could do this. And Tom said, well, we got this kid from the Impact, and I think he's pretty good. Turned out to be Mike Valenti.
I'll be darned.
Who is now, he's the king of radio in the state of Michigan.
Number one, yeah.
Number one.
That is awesome.
So, yeah.
There's a lot of stories like that. How did you ever, was it hard for you to make the shift from the inverted pyramid thinking of being a writer to actually being a talker?
No, and some people in the print business have suggested I should have done it a couple decades earlier. But actually, I was a television and radio major at Michigan State.
Now, when were you there?
About 100 years ago. No, it was, I got there in 69.
Okay.
And left in 75.
So you were, okay, yep. So you graduated around the same time that Steve Schramm and Gary Mesher and those guys came through. That was, and Mark Bayshore, I mean, that was a great graduating class in those days.
Yeah.
You were with Bayshore? I used to work with him here when I interned.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
And we're all related somehow.
We all worked at Bayshore, Schramm, Jeff Smith, and I. We all worked when ILS was just that one radio station over there on Kavanaugh Road. And Mark Bayshore and Kip Boney ran the overnights on the FM when they were trying to be like Riff in Detroit. And Steve Schramm and I were screaming top 40 AM jocks on Rock Radio 1320.
Wow.
With guys like John Jingus and Steve Rinaldi and Keith Cummings, you remember that name?
Sure, yeah, sports guy.
He was the thing about Keith. He was great. He always had Gus. What's his name from the lottery? Was his perennial guest talking about that.
Keith did a lot of Michigan State broadcasts.
Well, of course, there was never enough money over there then either. So he had his full-time job was he sold shoes at Sears.
Is that? I didn't know that.
Director. So what we used to say was we used to kid him and we say, "Is it Keith Cumming ILS News or ILS Shoes?"
You know, it's funny because we did a show together over there a couple years ago over at another company.
Yep.
And
you moved up in the world.
Sure did.
You got better company here at this
Absolutely.
company. Absolutely.
And I wanted you to tell our listeners, we'll talk about your books and things in a minute, but I want you to tell our listeners about Tom Izzo's decision to stay at Michigan State and where you were that night at an alumni association gathering. And you dashed back. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Tell our listeners about it. I remember you telling
that was one of the highlights of my life, actually. I kind of had started this job, and they have this thing out in Berrien County called the Berrien County Steak and Suds. And you go out in the middle of nowhere. Literally, you are in the middle of a cornfield someplace, and there's this park. And there are 680 people there, and there's, the ghosts of hundreds of cows smoking up at this huge grill as they're throwing these steaks on. And I was handing out steaks and beers and stuff. And all during that week, it had been the controversy about, will Tom go, will he not go, and all that kind of stuff to Cleveland. And the conversations, the one conversation I had with him, I said, you got to, whenever somebody offers to interview you, you take the interview. You got to take the interview. You got to talk to them, because then that might reinforce your desire to stay. So everyone was worried about what was going to happen, and I had to speak. They always ask you, the alumni guy to say something at the start of the thing. And as I'm getting ready to go up, my phone texts me from Ennis Hollis, and he says, "We're having a press conference at 7:30." And I text him back, and I says, "Does this mean what I think it is?"
Your whole life is connected to 7:30.
Right?
7:30.
Yeah,
it's 7:30 with
it's
you,
always
Scott.
the brand, yeah. So he said yes, but don't say anything. So I'm figuring I'm out in the middle of nowhere. There's nobody's going to know about this. So I got up there and I said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I want to be the first to tell you that Tom Izzo is going to be a Spartan for life." They went crazy, of course, as you can imagine. It was the biggest ovation I've ever had in my entire professional life. And I'm looking out there, and there's this woman.
Way to not tell anybody, by the way.
Well, yeah, I know. There's this woman out there that is like looking at my name tag really closely, and she's got her phone in one hand. And like 2 minutes later, the Chicago Tribune says, "MSU official confirms Tom Izzo is staying."
You were the official.
And she had a son that wrote for the Trib, so she texted him and said, "This dude from Michigan State says Tom Izzo's going to stay." So the weather was like there was this huge thunderstorms we get in the middle of summer in Michigan was coming across the state, and Colleen and I jumped in the car and we ran back as fast as we possibly could because we wanted to get back for the press conference, and we missed it. So we pulling in. We're going to run over to the Smith Center. We pull in. Only place to park is by the basketball place. And as we're getting out of the car, Tom and Loopy are coming out of the basketball building. The press conference is all over. Everything's done.
You got steak sauce all over you, probably, right?
Well, yeah, I was in my blue jeans and baseball cap, but we hugged all around, and I congratulated him on doing the right thing. I mean, you always have to explore your options, and we've all done that, right?
Absolutely.
It's important to do.
And there's no truth to the rumor that you got 25 extra memberships to the Alumni Association because you said you'd only tell people who joined. Right?
I wish I thought of that. That would have been a great way.
All right. We'll be back. We have a lot more to talk about with Scott Westerman, Executive Director of the MSU Alumni Association and author and speaker. And we're going to talk a little bit about his books and the Monday Motivators, which I think are a must-read if you want to start the week out right. We'll be back with that and more. The Drive with Jack Ebling on The Game, 7:30 a.m.
The Game, 7:30 a.m. WVFN. Right now, traffic.
A tipster has reported that a train is stopped in Charlemont, blocking most traffic running east and west of the train. The train seems to be running north and south near Cochrane Avenue. Authorities are on the scene trying to clear this accident, however, find an alternate route if possible. We are also seeing heavier congestion at the intersection of Grand River and Collingwood in East Lansing. You can report any backups or accidents by calling our traffic tip line at 888-765-8723. For The Game, 7:30 a.m. WVFN, I'm Kristen Hoffman with Breakdown Traffic.
Right now at the Home Depot, you can save 10% on any appliance of $397 or more. Get the best new features and ideas from top brand names like Maytag, Samsung, and LG. From washers and dryers to ranges, fridges, and freezers, you can dream big without disturbing your wallet. Thanks to 10% off any new appliance of $397 or more. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. Valid through May 1st, U.S. only. See store for details.
Here's reality, guys. If you're over 30, your testosterone levels may have already begun to decline. It's a medical fact that testosterone levels decrease with age. Here's the good news. Progene, the only all-natural dual-action testosterone supplement, is giving away a free month supply to every guy that calls today at 800-643-8577.
From the MSU Alumni Association. With more than 100 clubs and affiliates around the world, there's a Spartan in just about every city. And as an MSU Alumni Association member, you'll quickly feel right at home. Wherever you go, community, connections, careers, and class. 4 great reasons to visit alumni.msu.edu today to activate your membership in the largest Spartan organization in the world, the Michigan State University Alumni Association, your personal network for life.
With over 35 years of experience, nobody can touch down sport.
Welcome back to The Drive with Jack Ebling, The Game, 7:30 a.m. Our co-host today, Rico Beard, normally with us on Thursdays, sitting in for a second consecutive Friday. And Tom Crawford is in New York, and Tom's going to be calling in a little bit later. He has a big event with Ray Lewis in New York City, so he's taking care of that. And Rico sitting in today. Rico, I do a little bit of speaking, not nearly as much as this guy, but I was in Jackson, at the Country Club at Jackson, speaking to the Alumni Association the other night. Westerman wasn't available, so, they had to bring somebody out of the bullpen.
So how do the inmates enjoy it?
You know what? Well, we had 6 potential escapes. No, we did. Actually, they asked a ton of questions. I gave a little presentation, and then I was going to sit down, and I guess you take questions, and did they have questions? But that was fun. That was a lot of fun, and we sold some books and just mingled with a lot of the alums from Jackson County. And, that's a pretty good-sized club, too.
Well, I got to tell you, your book is terrific.
Thank you.
There's, and I'm glad to see that you're getting some speaking opportunities around it because I'm glad that you wrote it because it gives people a chance to really understand the depth and breadth of experience that you've had. You've been a witness to history for a long time.
That means I'm old.
Well, you have context.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that come in and out don't understand, what it was like when Irvin was playing in high school.
Yeah.
And that game between he and Jay was like the biggest thing that ever happened in this town at that point in time.
You know how I knew I was old? I've been around it a long time, Rico. I was talking to Heathfred on the phone, and Jeff started me asking questions about before he got there. Says, tell me before you got there. You were with Naismith hanging the peach baskets. What do you mean before you got there? You talk about books. I want to let people know about A Spartan Life.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Yeah.
And also CD, which you have. You listen to it in the car. Tell me about Spartan Life, what the motivation for that was, and how you define Spartan Life.
Well, I mean, it began back when I was a cable guy in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I used to write an email to the team on Sunday nights with a little motivational message for the next week. I mean, we were at a time in the cable industry where the revenue thing had really peaked, and so we were building our cash flow by improving efficiencies, the kind of things that you guys have done for years with the consolidation of radio and stuff.
Right.
And it was a tough time emotionally for a lot of people. So I would do a little research on Friday about something motivational, and I'd write these emails to these folks. And it turned out, I learned later that they were forwarding them. And my admin back then said, you ought to just put these on your website. So we changed the website from a family website to more of a motivational studying success type website, and that's how something called the Monday Motivator was born. It's a little thing that I started out with maybe 20 people, and now there's 7,000 on the email list. And
absolutely. Tell people how they could get that, because that is a must-read.
Well, I mean, it's easy. It's at scottwesterman.com. You can go there, and then there's a link.
You can listen to it too. You don't have to read it if you don't want to.
Well, and that's
you can listen to it.
I owe that to Mike Hudson. I mean, he's the guy who runs RCPD, Resource Center for Persons with Disabilities. He said, I'd much rather hear your voice tell me this than my reading tool on my Mac. So would you record an MP3 to go with it? And what I found after I started putting those in is that a lot of people, this is why radio is still so important, guys. Right. A lot of people don't have the time to sit back and read something. But they will, like they're listening right now, they'll sit with you for 10 or 15 minutes in the car.
Right.
So that expanded the reach. And when you're writing 52 of those a year, before you know it, you got enough for a book. So my current admin, Jennifer Decker, said to me one day, you should write a book about this. And that's kind of what happens. I don't know if you're like this, Rico, but once somebody's put something juicy, interesting in front of it, it's like a puzzle.
Yeah. Right.
You just got to keep playing with it until you figure it out.
You got to see how far it can go.
Yeah. So before I knew it, Spartan Life was born, and then President Simon was kind enough to write the intro for that, and then we did Spartan Life 2 last year, and Mark Hollis was the intro for that. And it's an interesting mix for me of Michigan State experiences and the stuff that I've studied about the secrets of what makes successful people. So we talked about we were talking during commercial break about the other great scary moment of our sports life, and that was Coach D'Antonio's heart attack.
That was really the impetus for Heart of the Spartan. That night, I said to a publisher, I said, "There's something different. I don't know what it is. This season is not like all the others where they start fast and then it doesn't sustain. This team is different, and it turned out to win 11 games."
Yeah, well, and that's this is an interesting parenthetical point. And it must be the same way with your life, because you guys follow them. But I asked Coach D'Antonio last week. I said, "Do you ever have a time when you slow down?" And he says, "No." He says, "This is a 24/7 existence." He says, "You try and cram your family time, right? But there's always somebody that either you want to see or wants to see you." And I have such great respect. The Antonios and the Izzos and the Merchants of the world are the names we know. But I mean, Reggie Unitas, Orlando, all these people, Shelley Applebaum, the administrators. I mean, the life in athletics it's a calling.
I don't know how much credit to give Luana K. Simon here, how much to give Mark Hollis, but there's a lot to go around. Rico, I don't recall a time where Michigan State was more on the same page. That doesn't mean they're going to win all the time. Doesn't mean they're going to go to the Rose Bowl.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Got a chance instead of shooting themselves in the foot. They're all moving in one direction.
Yeah, it's not a power struggle. It seems like everybody likes each other.
Yeah.
At least on the surface. I don't know. But yeah, it seems like they're all support each other. Well, you'll see, Hollis and D'Antonio at the Breslin Center for a game, and you'll see Izzo watching a football game, and there's Susie Merchant. Everybody's showing up to support each other the way it should be.
Yeah, I mean that is the Spartan. That's part of what attracted me back, Rico. I mean, when you think about at the time of life that we are right now, it's more about what you're doing. You're doing it because it's fun. You want to have some. You want to do the thing you love at this point, and that attracted to me, and President Simon's leadership, of course. I mean, she talked about the John Hannah of our generation. I mean, an amazing educator, amazing teacher, somebody who's really an introvert, who learned to be an extrovert because that's what was needed.
She likes to come on the radio, though.
She's learned now. Yeah.
Well, you've had success in the corporate world, so tell me, is it important there the same way it would be to an athletic team to have that kind of cohesion where everyone is working pushing in one direction?
Yeah, I think that the fundamentals are the same in that you have to hire the right people. In other words, you got to recruit the right people to the team. That's the first thing. You have to make sure they understand what the metrics are for success. And on the athletic field, that can be everything from the number of laps you run to how many reps you do in the gym to prepare to executing properly at the snap. I mean, that's understanding what those things are that constitute success. And then, as a leader, you have to make sure that they have the tools to be successful. And this is where this arms race that Mark constantly fights for facilities goes on. You got to make sure you got the right kind of stuff for them. And then the other thing is you got to keep people away. You got to keep the garbage away from them so that they can do the job. While they're learning to be great, they can be good while they're learning to be great. And I think that's a consistent thing. It certainly was back in the days when we were doing radio, because the people that prepped and the people that really knew their stuff and spent extra time trying to learn how to run the board, make sure it really everything tight board, seamless execution. I mean, those are the guys. I mean, that's you look at those people, and they're the ones that are now working in Detroit and in New York and major markets and have made a career out of it for many years. Same thing in every. It boils down basically to a few kind of success formulae, and that's it. No matter what you're in.
You know, Woody Hayes had a book that a lot of people probably didn't read because it was Woody Hayes, but it was very insightful. It would have been a success in the business world, called You Win with People. Had nothing to do with football. It was all about relationships and building an organization. And I think you see those same kinds of things. I got a Tom has a story about this for you. So I'm doing the book Green Glory after the three straight thing.
Great book.
After the three straight.
Bookshop, Rico.
Really? It's all underneath my kitchen table.
$2.95 right now. You can pick it up.
Keeping that table bound. Go ahead.
So I was doing his piece, and I decided I was going to talk to Steve Mariucci. So I called Steve. I knew him a little bit, and I said, you know, Izzo keeps talking about his life's dream is to be an NFL assistant coach. He wants to coach special teams or DBs or quality control. He doesn't want to coach basketball, but he wants to coach football. And I said, you know, you've known this guy since you were Rugrats in Iron Mountain. Could he ever be an NFL assistant coach? And Mariucci said, no, I don't think so. But he could be an NFL head coach tomorrow. I said, wait a minute. He couldn't be an assistant coach. He said, you don't understand. Assistant coach has to have specific knowledge for teaching a skill set, for teaching a position. But to be an NFL head coach, you have to be a CEO. You have to be a manager. You have to be a delegator. You have to understand people. He said, if you can be a successful basketball coach at Tom Izzo's level, you could be a football coach. You could be a baseball manager. It's just a matter of learning the X's and O's.
I think that's so true. I mean, the real secret to success, in my view, is your ability to make other people feel important. If the other person can feel like they're the most important person in the room, then you will get just an incredible output of those people. The loyalty factor, everything. They'll go the extra mile if they believe that you authentically care about them as individuals.
And I'm not saying this because
you're learning this.
I am.
Are you taking notes, Jack?
Now you're letting a difficult standard. Now Rico's going to expect me to be that guy.
Calling me a diva does not help.
That's right.
I thought the truth was validation. No, you know, and I'm not just saying this because he's sitting next to me, but the people who work for you always use one word to describe you. It's not techie. It's positive. The fact that you are incessantly positive about everything, and I think there are problem solvers and problem creators, and you know, you're always looking for the right way, the way to solve a problem and not make it worse. I've seen a lot of bosses and managers who come in and, you know, they take a little tiny brush fire. Next thing you know, it's a 10-story inferno. We've had those. Mm-hmm. We'll be back with much more, and we're going to tell a few more stories and talk a little bit more about the Alumni Association. Our newest presenting day sponsor will be here every Thursday with us. Scott Westerman, our guest. Jack Ebling and Rico Beard, The Drive with Jack on the game, 7:30 a.m. 7:30 a.m. You can listen to us at thegame730am.com or Scott Westerman would on your smartphone with the iHeartRadio app. Host today, Rico Beard, Spartan Mag. Rico, it's amazing the connections here. Now, you were saying you used to work over at University Relations.
I got a tweet from Dave Brown, who was my former boss at University Relations.
Yeah. So
he
was my chauffeur the other night going to Jackson.
We had, right. Now, he has a radio show now, I think, too.
Other duties assigned is what they call it.
But I made the videos promoting Michigan State. They would play during halftime. So I'm like, wow, I didn't. He's like, you're giving my boss Scott a little Sparty love. So I'm like, wow, I didn't know you knew Dave. So yes,
everybody does. I mean, Dave is the true mayor of the MSU Alumni Association. I mean, if you want to know anything about any club, any history, even back before he was a student, he can find that answer out very quickly. He doesn't know it by heart.
And he gave me the best advice I've ever received in grad school. Sorry, I apologize to all the professors, but he told me, and it stuck with me since, it's far easier to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission.
That's very true. We do that around here a lot.
I use that philosophy all the time.
Yeah. Well, I would always rather work with a racehorse than a plow horse. So I'd rather rein you in than have to try and make it run.
We talk about Dave Brown, and most people know Dave Brown is the guy to go to for parking passes. If you want a better parking pass, you should call Dave Brown.
That's what it used to be.
I say that because that's the thing. Sleeper, yeah. I say that because that's probably the thing that Alumni Association people get hit on a lot. They hate that, I know.
Well, I'm sure, Rico, it's probably your experience, too, when all of a sudden, if you're going to a Rose Bowl or a fantastic game or you're in the Final Four, all these people that you haven't even heard from or never knew are your best friend. And they're sending you notes saying, could you happen to have this? I'd like something in the lower bowl. Could you get a couple of tickets there?
I used to go to Michigan State. They probably took one class at some point, and then, maybe they were at a party there.
Or they're a big donor. They've given $100 and they think that constitutes moving to the front of the line.
Tell us a little bit about some of the Alumni Association tours, and I know a lot of people are familiar with the bowl trips and those who are lucky enough to get tickets to NCAA tournaments. How does that work?
Well, I mean, the Spartan Fund really is kind of the driving force behind the sports-related tours, as they should be. I mean, we're in a situation right now, the athletic department gets no money from the university. They basically eat what they grow. And of course, the venues, the events, and the coaches are what they have to sell. So we help facilitate that when we go on a bowl trip or we make the run in the NC Dubs. We're there as their cheerleaders. We throw the pep rallies and everything, but our main role is to make sure people understand how important it is to invest beyond the tickets that you get for the game in the future of champions here, because that's what attracts them to come. The stuff that we do that is really under our tent is more enrichment and developmental stuff, I guess you would say. The two things that are really hot right now are some of the tours we have. We just spun up a tour to Cuba. First one, it's been in a long time. Immediate sellout. We got a second one going in November. But the thing that is really getting some traction is we do these benchmarking tours where we go to best-in-class companies and go behind the scenes with Spartans. So our last year we went to Nike. And there are a ton of Michigan State people at Nike.
I heard about that trip.
Besides Mark Hollis, he has an office over there.
Well, the guy who designed the football shoes that all the guys wear in the NCAA is a Spartan. Their number 3 guy there is a Spartan. And we take people out there, and they're the ones that take us on the tour. And then at the end, we went to the Prefontaine room. They have this building, and of course, they have the Steve Prefontaine Auditorium. And these guys, there's 6 of them from all kind of segments of the Nike life. Somebody just started in finance like 3 months ago, all the way up to this number 3 guy. And they're talking about their careers at Nike and how the Michigan State connection, that 6 degrees of Spartan nation that we were talking about during the break, how that is so powerful. And those are fun, not only because you get to meet interesting people at the places. We're going to Boeing later this year.
Boeing?
Yeah. We have Spartans at Boeing that call us up and said, come out here. So
you have fun in Portland or Oregon, you're going to head up to Seattle, right?
Absolutely. That puts you in the neighborhood. Yep. And but the other piece of it is that the people who go are fascinating. Like we have everything from executives to kids who got the trip as a present from their parents for graduation. And the dynamic that goes on there. Then there's the third piece of it, which is the hospitality business. We have the school of hospitality business, and Spartans work at every cool hotel. Yeah. So whenever I travel, I send a note ahead of time to the hotel, and I say, get your Spartans together, I'm going to buy them breakfast. So we get fantastic service.
I should just stop for 1 second, let everyone know Fred Human just texted me and said that the baseball game is over and Michigan State beat Purdue 8-1.
All right. Jake Boss is having a great season.
Yeah. That's one thing, Rico, when Hollis came in and started hiring coaches, I don't think he's missed. I think you can go back through and you can
go Fire
Merchant and Jake Boss, and, you can go right down the line. But Tom Anastas now, I think a lot of people who were not sure what that hire was about now understand exactly what it's about. And the alumni who are loyal to Michigan State and hang on every victory or loss are some of the people who make the job enjoyable for someone like Tom was telling me a story about 2009 with the Final Four at Ford Field and the pep rally.
Yep. At the mall.
At the mall,
Somerset.
And he said that was one of the most awesome nights, not knowing what to expect. He thought, they'll have some alums over there. And when the fire marshals couldn't get in. I mean, they were hanging over the railings.
Yeah. It took us a while. We had to get there early to set up the TV cameras. And we had to snake through the back rooms of the mall in order to get there. And they're like, guys, I'm going to need you just to stop right here because any more cables is just dangerous because there were so many. We didn't expect it to be that big of a crowd.
No.
We thought that, okay, we'll shoot from high up. It was like a stadium seating. There were people on every level hanging over the back. I mean, the picture outside the and outside of his office and the practice facility is phenomenal. It's surrounded. It's like a. It's surrounded. It's like a 3D type of picture where it shows everything, and you kind of get how big that event really was.
So that's one of those athletic moments that you remember forever. I got a text the other night after the Boston thing from one of our Spartans who was at the Bruins game, and he says, go to this YouTube link. And I'm sure you guys saw it. It's the YouTube link of the national anthem where the guy started singing it and then he stopped and the crowd took it over. This Spartan texted me and he says, I can't watch the game because I'm crying. You got to see this. And, you get chills at those kind of those Spartan moments. I mean, there's going to be another one coming up next week. Why am I blanking on her name? I know her so well. Our gymnast that was seriously
Catherine Mahoney.
Catherine Mahoney, right. She's graduating next week.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is a magical moment. Talk about an inspiring, courageous person who came back. And Steve Smith is graduating. Did you know this?
Steve Smith is graduating.
I mean, eventually.
Well, I hope Clarabelle Smith Center helped him a little bit.
He should say my tutor. Right, like my name's on the front and my mother's name.
Well, this is what the magic of athletics is all about to me, is to see these courageous stories of people that are not only motor geniuses and going to be great people like Steve Smith.
How many alumni clubs around the world, and in terms of the email address or contact information, what would you suggest people do?
Well, we have 168 clubs worldwide. And of course, the bulk of them are in the U.S. Everything that you need alumni-wise is very easily found at alumni.msu.edu. We have a club locator there. We have our career services resource. If you're a Spartan that is thinking about changing jobs between opportunities, we help you find a job. When you move to a new town, we help you get settled. What we do is we take you from wherever you are right now in your life to wherever you want to be. It's all about Spartans helping Spartans.
I like that.
Yeah, that is what the Alumni Association is for. That's why they call it your personal network for life. All right. Scott, great having you here. Can you stick around a couple more minutes? I wanted to play a trick on Tom Crawford. He's going to be calling from New York.
Oh, great. Yeah, I got something for him. I got a gift for Tom. That'll be perfect.
We'll be right back with more. The Drive with Jack. Welcome back to The Drive with Jack Ebling on the game, 7:30 a.m. My co-host today, Rico Beard. Normally our Thursday co-host, and lost a couple of opportunities with Tigers baseball. And filling in on Fridays for our next guest. Rico, I hope you don't mind having Tom come on and talk a little Michigan Wolverines here.
I love talking with Tom. We can always share Will Campbell stories.
Tom is in New York City, and he is there for a very important event. What can you tell us about that, and how is Ray Lewis, Tom?
Ray Lewis is great. What a great guy, Jack. And thanks for bringing me on. And it's been a great. I'm here in New York City. I work for the M3 Group now. It's an ad agency, marketing agency, and we're with a great capital fund, which is our client. They're involved in the Athlete Foundation, and that's all leads into a partnership with a lot of former professional athletes who are trying to give back to the community, affordable housing, and a joint effort. It's called the Impact Partnership. We had a great press event yesterday. We had a reception over at the Morgan Stanley building. The CB Jim Brown's going to be there for us old guys. We remember number 32 for Cleveland Browns. And so it's a great cause, and seeing professional athletes want to give back, and invest in people who are less fortunate is one thing.
Well, you are doing a little bit of traveling now, but never too far away from Michigan Athletics. And Denard Robinson tonight might get taken in, say, round 3 of the draft. What do you think?
Well, it's funny you say that because, I'm tied up tonight, but I fly back. I got to get up to LaGuardia tomorrow afternoon. I have maybe an hour and a half to go see round 4 through 7 down at Radio City Music. It's just a couple blocks from my hotel. I'm thinking, hey, maybe I'll see Denard get drafted. You really think he's going to go tonight?
No.
You don't think so, Rico?
No. That's a short answer, no. Long answer, no.
I have a photo, actually, I got this week of Denard Robinson in the airport in Florida with Dr. John Braccio. And Braccio, of course, is wearing all his green and white, as he always does. And there's Denard, and they posed for a picture and had a nice chat. So,
you got to
But now, Tom, my biggest question I need to know. Working with Ray Lewis, did he teach you the squirrel dance? So when you start can you Ray Lewis?
I wouldn't even attempt, but he did admit to me that since the Super Bowl, he has not one ounce of workout, no cardio, no lifting weights, no agility drills. I'm telling you what, he can hit the field right now. He definitely fills out the suit pretty well.
Well, he's going to be filling out a microphone for ESPN. He'll be doing that next season. And we should let our listeners know that Tom has 3 kids now in college. He has a son at Albion, and he has a daughter at Central Michigan, and another daughter here at Michigan State. And actually, Tom, in light of that, we had someone here who wanted to talk to you for a second, and it's MSU Alumni Association Director Scott Westerman.
Yeah, Tom, I just want to tell you how much I really admire your work. I want to thank you for making it possible for me to have a job by sending your daughter to Michigan State. And in return for that, I hereby give you a life membership in the Michigan State University Alumni Association.
You are crazy. My daughter, she works over there in their building. She's an ambassador, and she's working for the Green Line and just people that donate money to Michigan State. So we have a lot of we have one with my wife graduated Michigan State, so I definitely have Michigan State ties. I hate to admit it, but it's a wonderful school.
Well, I got to tell you, your daughter is a rock star. I don't know if you ever want to have a really fun night of being with positive people, you guys should come over and sit with the Green Line. These are the kids that do the telemarketing, call you and ask you for money. And she's amazing. I mean, if ever having a bad day, I'll just go and hang with those guys for an hour.
Right.
Really good. And being an ambassador,
you can do that job. You can do anything in my mind.
Well, she's a terrific. She's the first line of the first thing that people meet when they come to Michigan State to try and decide whether they're going to go to college. So when she takes them around, she's the one that tells them about those traditions that we all know so well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. But it's Michigan State's a great school. I cringe when I have to write that check, if you will. So I gotta kind of look the other way. My wife son opposed to me.
You can't have green grass without blue skies, right?
Whenever I get one of these Green Line calls, and you've given past or whatever, they're going to keep coming back to you, and I always find it time to say, there's someone else who I think you should call, and I give them Tom's number. Now the danger is that I'm going to do that, and it's going to be his daughter on the phone, and then she's going to recognize it.
Then you got to check. That's all there is to it. He's going to call his daughter and give her your cell phone.
Exactly. Well, when are you back, Tom?
I get back tomorrow night. I'm telling you what, I know Rico's a big NFL guy, and you watch a lot more than me, but, a lot of the media people, we had ESPN out for the Razor and SportsIllustrated.com. And talking to Maggie Sports Illustrated, she was telling me the NFL is so huge right now. I mean, it is the biggest sport in the world. And I believe that when I see people lining up at Radio City Music Hall for 2 days just to go in and see, the draft, which I consider paint dry. You get 5-minute gap. I mean, the whole jerseys. It's the passion here for the NFL this week is off the scale. It's unbelievable.
I think one of the reasons for that, besides fantasy football, is the way the NFL approaches it, where they believe in parity, they believe in giving every fan base hope. And so between the player draft, where the teams that do worse get the best players theoretically, unless you're the Lions, and they also have a schedule, which is more forgiving for the teams that finish last, and there's a salary cap. So pro football very different from college football that way, and every year, legitimately, you find fans in 32 training camps thinking, this is our year.
Well, absolutely. It's a fair system, and with a passion for the NFL. Maybe it's just the fact that we've been so frustrated with the Detroit Lions. I mean, 1 year old back in 1957 when they won the NFL championship. So, the patience is waning a little bit, at least for me.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people. Did you get a chance to see Adrian Peterson there? Somebody told me that.
That's tonight over this event. Jim Brown and possibly Dr. J. I mean, it's not football that involved with this joint effort. As far as the Legend Impact Partnership, and so it's celebrities all over the place. I mean, tell you what, a lot of tied in with the NFL draft. It's just almost like a circus down here, and it's going to be great to meet some great people that I admire. Dr. J, I guess, from what people have talked to him, I'm just so impressed with him and what he is indeed giving back as well.
You know what, Tom? Now I'm jealous because Dr. J, as many people as I've met in doing radio and TV. He was the first guy that I met that I went fan. I went all fan, and I was starstruck and tongue-tied, and you're Dr. J, and he's like, yes, I am.
Oh my Lord! I don't blame you. I would probably do the same thing. I mean, he was a tremendous player, and there need more Dr. J's out there, and it'd be a wonderful world we live in.
Scott, now that we're finishing week 8 with the show, we've decided to add a little bit to it. And so one of the latest ideas was we're going to have the co-hosts get one guest per show. So Rico does a good job today. He calls me and says, hey, I got Drew Sharp. Pretty good. And now Crawford, he's got Julius Irving, Jim Brown, Adrian Peterson, and Ray Lewis.
You need me to you know what? I'll place the call to the White House. Keep messing with me. I'll shut this place down.
Guy's got a 3-point shot.
Don't talk about shutting radio stations down. I've already done that. Hey, Tom, thanks so much for taking time. I know you're going to have a great event tonight. We'll talk to you when you get back. All right.
He's got
Tom Crawford. He's probably talking to Adrian Peterson right now. But, it's not a bad gig he's got. Going around and setting up events like that.
Life is about figuring out what you love and figuring a way to get paid for it.
He is the one, Scott, who gave me a slogan from Rick Pitino. Actually, it was a subject of one of Rick Pitino's camp lectures, which would fit perfectly for you. He said, make your vocation a vacation. And Pitino does an hour on that. That whole idea that if you do that, then you're going to be successful at what you do, and your passion's going to rub off on everyone else.
Yeah, if you're doing what you love, it's not work. The work and play thing blurs.
Yeah. And you find people who are at the top of their profession. A lot of them will tell you that it's not work for them. I mean, it's hours. They're busy, but my dad used to say before he died, "Are you ever going to get a real job?" And
he still asks that question.
Probably yeah. A couple of my bosses have asked that over the years too. But those are the kinds of things if you can do that. And Tom's involved with a lot of people in the sports world, and big time speakers. He organizes a lot of the speaking assignments for national conventions and things. So dealt with a lot of those people. Scott, thanks so much for coming by. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for running the board. Good to see you, my friend. And Rico, thanks for letting me slide in here for a few minutes.
No problem. Welcome anytime.
Maybe.
You know what now? I think I got this figured out. When I go on vacation, we're going to have Westerman in here on the rotation. Come in. You did that for me when I went to China. I mean, we had different people do that, right? Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. I appreciate that and appreciate the support from the MSU Alumni Association, your personal network for life. Rico, one thing you're going to watch at the draft tonight, what's going to be of greatest interest?
How the Lions are going to screw up around 2 and 3.
You notice he said how, not if. He's already got that part figured out.
Certain things, and you know what? 3 o'clock always comes after 2. And certain things you just don't know.
Right? Yep. Sunsets in the west, the Lions are going to screw up the draft. Okay.
True.